mica cap here. So I'll just follow things back on the schematic here and make sure that we've got the correct value for this particular capacitor as well as it matches the schematic drawing. So let me work offline and do that real quick. Sometimes these things, if you don't look at them close, they'll confuse the heck out of you. But anyway, this is a 0.05 microfarad cap, and it is correct. It runs, let's see, 12BA6. Just make sure I'm not confusing myself. Yep, it's going to be C2 on the schematic 0.05. Again, located here. And you can see it going back to the cathode there of the 12BA6 tube. Alright, let me get it snipped out here, get things cleaned up, and prep a new one here to go in. Alright, we'll get it snapped out here. Just leave the lead up here. You can see that goes back to the IF filter. Should be the first IF. Alright, let me leave it as is for now and get this area cleaned up here. And while I'm in here too, I'm going to go ahead and check this resistor, since I'm going to be putting a cap right over the top of it. Just cleaned up here real good. Okay, got that positioned the way I want it here. And then down here I've got the lead itself just wrapped around the existing solder joint. Okay, let me cut the extra lead length off here, and I think we'll be golden. Alright, just a little cleanup in this area. I checked that resistor there. I think it was a 47 ohm. And we're good there. Reads a little high, but I think that's because it's in circuit. So if we don't get the operation out of the radio that we deserve, then we'll come back to that. Okay, I've double checked all my solder connections here just to make sure I don't see any cold solder joints, and got to do just a little more cleanup here on that tube socket there. I'll use a little deoxit. Someone has replaced the power cord at some point, and I don't like the way that that's soldered on there. It looks like it's just laid on, but I'll take a closer look at that. And same thing here, where it attaches itself over to the rectifier tube. But overall, it doesn't look too bad underneath here. Again, I'm just going to poke around and check out all these other solder connections and make sure I don't need to hit any of them again. Alright, let me move over here again to the rectifier side. I think this radio, what was it, a 50 or 35W4 rectifier tube. So let me just check in here and see what I've got. Probably a safety cap needs to go in. Then I'll probably look at adding a fuse as well to this, since it's going to a friend of mine. So if there is an issue, to open up and not create a bigger problem. So let me just check out this part of the circuit and I'll be right back. Alright, here's the if you look at this part of the circuit that we're looking at here, it's right in here, or a lot of it is. Again, I'll trace everything out just to make certain, but again, you see you've got your switch here, and you notice the switch itself is on that B- side of the chassis, which we talked about. Again, it's more of a floating B-, and there's the chassis symbol itself. So again, the switch connects itself here to this floating section, not to chassis ground. And then you've got these 0.05 microfarad capacitors here in series with each other. So let me study this just a little bit more and make sure that because it looks like some of these caps have been replaced at some point, just make sure everything's tied in and matches the original design here. Alright, I'll try to zoom in on this just a bit, but someone had replaced the line cord at some point in time. Not uncommon. These things get brittle as can be, but you can see here how it's soldered up, if that's showing up. It's not an easy way to do these anyway. Somebody just formed a loop and then tied it back around and then tied into this resistor right here. And if I'm looking at the schematic, you can see that this resistor here is faded, it's hot. We'll check the value, but it should be R5 150 ohms, so that should be brown, green, brown. Doesn't look brown to the eye, and that's just due to the probably just the heat that was applied at one point in time when the new line cord here was being soldered on. So I want to clean up this entire section here. And then at the same time while I'm doing so, I'll check the resistor here and replace it if necessary. Matter of fact, the way it looks, I'll probably just go ahead and swap it, but we'll see. And I tell you what, this is mighty close. It looks like this lead is bent over and it's within, well, maybe these two pins are tied together. I can't tell. I'm going to look at that closer as well. I was first thinking that looks like it's almost touching, but it may be that pins 6 and 5 here are actually part of the same circuit, or they're attached together electrically. Alright, so I'm going to do a lot of this off camera. I'm going to again clean this up here, get this loose. We'll make sure that this is indeed a 0.05 microfarad capacitor. And then looking at this, I'll probably go back with a safety cap right here in C4. And the reason why is this goes back to the common B-, and this section here, C4, attaches itself from the common back to the chassis ground. So I'll probably go ahead and make this a safety cap. I don't think I won't be using a 0.05, probably a 0.01 should suffice, but if that cap should ever short, I might even make this a safety cap. Let me look at it closer, because if this cap here shorts, makes the chassis hot, of course this safety cap would open if that's the case, or it should open, not short. Let me just study this just a little bit more here, see how I'm going to move forward. I'll show you just a little bit of this, but that power cord, it was just kind of laid, excuse me, hit the camera. It was just laid on top of that connection there, so it wasn't secured or wrapped around. So you can see the cleanup that I need to do right here in this area. Just want to be extremely cautious and not break the tube socket itself here. So I'll continue to do that offline. Be right back. Alright, again, just kind of cleaning this up little by little. So you can see it's pretty messy back in here, but I think we'll be able to square it up. I'm going to check this resistor here again, brown, green, brown, 150, and see what that checks out to be. And then I got to continue to heat this up here and just clean up this mess. Just make sure I've got a nice connection here. And then I'll go ahead and take a look at how I want to do the fuse if I like to do so. Here's a look at that resistor, 343 ohms. So you can see your 0.343 K. So it's definitely high, reading what, twice as high as it should. So way out of tolerance, and not surprised to have a lot of heat applied to it at some point. And I just put more to it to try to clean this mess up. So let me get a substitute here of close value and get that swapped out as we go along. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a moment here to get a fuse put in. And I'm going to mount it right here. Just clean this area up here. And then get some quick dry epoxy. I'm going to change the end of the plug to be polarized as well when I'm done. So sorry about that, I know my hand's in front of the camera. So I'm going to take some time here to put a fuse in. And it's going to be mounted here. This is going to be the hot side coming in. Probably put a, I don't know, I think all I've got is 1/2 amp fast blows. I'll put that in, but let me get some epoxy to kind of roughen this up and see if I can make this adhere to the back of the chassis. Then we'll come off of this connection point back down and then take a look at how I reconfigure the caps, and of course get this resistor here that's reading over double what it should be, this 150, replaced. One other thing too, again, this is a real slick surface, so what I'm going to do is just use my file and kind of rough up the bottom side of the holder itself, and then I'll take a piece of sandpaper and kind of score this area as well. So when I put the epoxy on there, hopefully we'll get a good set, and it won't be leaving us anytime soon. Alright, there's a good indicator. Again, I got the back of this scored up well, and then same thing here with the chassis. You can see just kind of roughed up a little bit in this area, and I've already cleaned it also with alcohol. So let me get some epoxy mixed up here, and we'll get it applied and get this fuse mounted about right there. Okay, with my battery used up, I think it's about time to end the video anyway. On a note, I used an X1Y2 safety cap that can be used interchangeably as a line bypass, line to ground, and or across the line. So that's the advantage. You'll see them there, the two blue ones. I put those in as a safety net. The values were 0.01. So hey, the electrical side I think turned out really nice and neat. And here's a look at the top side of the chassis. I got a lot of the crud off. Again, I didn't scrub this thing good. Used some deoxit. Clean the tubes, check the tubes, clean the tube sockets. The tube pins had a lot of corrosion on those. Got that tuning condenser cleaned out as well. Did the RF alignment as I mentioned earlier, I think, and man, I tell you what, this radio is playing great. Okay, there's the cabinet. Again, it's got a few places on it. One thing about the knobs, they cleaned up good, but it's like in behind there's a plastic piece or something. There's this metal piece. It almost looks like there's some rust forming or oxidation, but anyway, it actually creates a really nice patina, and it matches some of the other decor, so maybe it's actually made that way. But the case itself really cleaned up nice. You know, again, there's a few small, you know, chips or blemishes on the cabinet, but overall I'm extremely pleased. Just pulled out some of my turtle wax polishing compound and went over it after wiping all the nicotine and stuff off using some disinfecting wipes. So got rid of most of the years of, you know, what appeared to be nicotine. But again, the things, you know, the radio is really playing well. Very, very pleased. I did the RF alignment just by ear. It was just a bit off, you know, best I can tell, but it was already playing so well, and the dial seems to be tracking fairly close. It might be off just a bit, but nothing that needs any further attention in my mind. So anyway, I'll get this back to the you know, to the owner, and hopefully they'll be pleased with the repair. So I appreciate you guys watching this quick repair on this little Arvin 450 from around 1950. Again, the date stamp on the back of the radio was not legible. I had one of my viewers ask, and I've tried again just to make it out. So 19, you know, 50, 51, maybe 53, somewhere in that area would be my best guess. If anyone out there watching's got another Arvin just like this, please let me know. Take care.